It's time for a reality check.
We're here to deconstruct health and fitness trends and provide tangible advice so you can become 1% better with each choice starting today. Welcome back to Reality Check. We are your hosts, Jess and Jill, and I think we're overdue for just a unhinged rant on the podcast because we haven't done one in a while. And Jess and I have been doing so many things in the background in life, making life changes, changing life seasons, and it just feels appropriate to give you guys a random update. I feel like I'm usually really good on my Instagram stories about providing life updates, but honestly, I've even been a little bit MIA there. So now you get to hang out with us in the most unhinged way today. So I have some life updates. Jess has some life updates. Jess's life update is probably shorter because she made a commitment to quit caffeine and lasted how many?
Stop. You can't just say I made a commitment. Like I don't post my commitments on the internet for a reason, because if I make a decision to change something,
you don't want to be held accountable to your commitment.
No, it's because literally when I told you I'm stopping caffeine, you said for how long? Like forever. And I was like, for now, because I'm not going to make a commitment that I'm not going to stick to, you know?
I just thought for now would be a couple weeks.
I mean, I thought it would be 30 days. It needs to be 30 days next time. Okay. So I'm back on the sauce. I've got my fluids here. Like I've got my uppers, my downer. I've got my ashwagandha drink. I've got my V8 energy drink, and I've got my electrolytes here in front of us as we're recording.
I'm also ill today on top of everything else. So I am only on electrolytes, and I was not in solidarity with this caffeine strike that Jess went on temporarily because I didn't want to give it up. But I think this update will be, I don't know, interesting for people. And I think sometimes it's good to remind everyone that we are also humans with real shit happening behind the scenes. And my job is to post good things and helpful things. And I try to keep it light on social media. But every time I have shared about my EMDR therapy experience in the past, I get lots of questions on my social media about this. And if you don't know, EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. So it's something about the bilateral stimulation. There's like tapping, eye motions, different ways they go about it. I do mine virtual, so it's like on the screen, like a little thing that I do. It is the only form of therapy that I think has actually been therapeutic for me. Oddly enough, like talk therapy, I've done it on and off over the years. Sure, a good vent session always like helps level you out that day or get some things off your chest, but this is a little bit
but
different.
It only helps with like I feel like they all are helpful in different ways. Like not talk therapy, I think is, sorry to offend people, but like useless, because it's like, okay, unless you really need a friend or somebody to talk to, right? Cognitive behavioral therapy, if you have a good therapist, they're giving you tools that you can then implement in life so that you can change your behaviors and your habits and your systems. Like that's how we try to approach coaching, right? This, what she's talking about, is like a physical, like a physiology thing where it physically
rewiring.
Right. So you can move your eyes in different directions. And this is my very like unscientific description of it. You can move your eyes in different directions, and your eyes are directly connected to your brain. So if you're thinking about perhaps a traumatic event or a life thing you've been through, you can put your eyes in a position where your body thinks, oh, I'm calm and safe. So that over time, your body starts to feel like, oh, okay, we don't need to be stressed out all the time from this past event that is no longer actually influencing us. So almost like, I mean, it's a totally different type of therapy, but like desensitization therapy or exposure, where they expose you to the thing, but they teach you how to have calm breath and things like that.
Gentle exposure. And it's also like, you hear about like reparenting, you know, your former self. There's a lot of like that involved too, because you're going back to these moments. But my therapist described it so well, is it's like, you don't want to put yourself back in the moment to re-experience it. You want to look at it as like you're watching a movie of yourself and watching it back and saying like, this is what I would have done for that version of myself in that moment, right? Like, what did she need? What was lacking? And you're kind of healing whatever little like trauma, that wasn't the right word.
Jill has had a lot of pretty big life traumas, like
Little
pretty
is
big
not the right
things
word
that
to use.
most people have not been through, or most definitely not many of them in one lifetime, let alone within like the course of 5 or 10 years, all back to back to back.
Lots of death, lots of fight or flight moments, which is why I have this really like sick, twisted sense of humor. But that's just what makes us who we are. So it's great. But EMDR is really good. And also, I think it's so important. And I can put the link in the description of today's episode, but emdria.com. Let me actually make sure that's correct. It might be .org. Yeah, sorry. No, I think it's .org. But you can go to this emdria.org, and that's how you can find an EMDR therapist local to you. This is the website I used to find one that I worked with for a year. She ended up retiring, and I was like devastated after. That was another trauma in and of itself, that I had developed this relationship with this person. I'm like, oh my God, I need a break. Like, I have to start over. At that time, I was starting to make the transition. We were like prepping to move from Michigan to Idaho. And I was like, well, I might as well get one in Idaho. I found one and I loved her. I felt like very connected with her. And I interviewed a couple, but she was not licensed in Michigan. And the state of Michigan, you have to email, every state is different, but she had to email the state and ask permission to see me as a patient. And they said no. So if that says anything to you about healthcare in the country, I won't do that rant today. Maybe I will. We are unhinged anyway. It literally said no. Like, you don't have permission to see this person in our state. I was willing to pay out of pocket and everything, and they would not allow it. So she very wonderfully applied and got a license in Michigan so that I could see her virtually until I moved. That in and of itself spoke volumes, obviously, about her as a provider, that she knew, like, I need to help this person. And I saw her for a couple months. I moved. I took a little bit of time off through the move, and then I reconnected with her. Now, through all of that, moving across the country is a little baby trauma sometimes, I think, in and of itself. All good things. We love it here. But then I went through some family things. I went through loss of a parent, and she actually has not let me go back into specific EMDR sessions because it's very taxing on the body, and it's a lot. You're demanding a lot of your emotions, and you have to make sure that you are like safe, in a safe place mentally. And not safe as in like, she doesn't think I'm going to like hurt someone or hurt myself, but just like wants to make sure that I can handle any emotions that might come up between our weekly sessions in healthy ways. And she was like, hey, going through a loss like this, we're just not there yet. We're going to do some different things first, which I also think is so critical for a provider in that position to be able to make that discernment, which obviously I appreciate so much, because I was like, all right, I got to buckle up and get back into this. And she was like, no, I don't think so.
In true Jill fashion, working through all of the pain, like, it's okay, everything's fine. Everything's fine. We're fine. I don't know why my body has these stress responses though. So I'm just going to keep working through it.
So, little things have happened since the passing of my dad, and stressors for all the reasons. I don't need to dig into all of my trauma, but something specifically kind of triggered me. And since that happened last week, I have felt horrendous. I cannot eat, really struggling with appetite, and my heart rate has been out of control. It's similar to like POTS syndrome, where when you stand, your heart rate elevates for like really no reason. But mine's been like spiking. It's 101 right now. Like, I'm normally resting at like 70. So I can't work out because I don't want to like trigger anything else. So my body is obviously sending me these signals of like, time to slow down, which unfortunately this is how I operate. I go until my body like literally can't, which obviously I know a lot of women do. People do, women do specifically. And this has kind of led me down this rabbit hole of like, you know what, I'm just going to slow down. Like, I have to slow down. I'm meditating, I'm walking outside, I'm doing all these different things. I can't lift right now, so I'm just going back to like yoga and mobility. And I went in the gym the other day and was like, I'm going to do a light lift. I did 2 sets and I was like, something in my body was like, nope, can't do this right now. So I just stopped and went for a really slow walk outside. And it's very interesting because I think that we are often feel like we need to just keep going and keep pushing through. And this episode is not about grief. Again, this is just like a really valuable thing that I think my therapist shared with me is that sometimes when you like go through like something traumatic or you're grieving the loss of something, it feels like she's like, you almost want the whole world to stop and acknowledge it for a second. Like, take an hour, give me a day, give me 2 hours, give me something of like, hello, like the world just can't go on. And if she described it as like a train going by and you're like, please just stop the train for 1 second. And it's like, train's got to run. Like we got shit to do. And it's really hard to move forward when you're grieving something, when you're like, people see grief generally as the bad thing happens. You feel sadness for a little bit and then you heal and you move on. And it's like grief is this, you can't see my hand, but it's this big giant up and down. Some days are great. Some days are debilitating. And it's not debilitating like sad. It's like what's happening in my body. Like my body is trying to like figure this out. So anyway, we just felt like that was valuable to share, that like sometimes things can't just go on. We can't just move forward, and listening to your body in every way, shape, and form is so important. But I'm getting advice from a mentor in the space from a health side and from my therapist. And it's very like I told Jess, I was so fascinated. They gave me the same advice of like
but from very different lenses, right? Like the therapist is
totally
thinking,
different purposes.
Okay, your nervous system needs to calm down, and we need to address these underlying causes of your body's physical stress. And then this health coach is saying, time out, your body's physically stressed. Let's stimulate your vagus nerve and blah, 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 blah. And like, it's really, sorry. So we started talking about this just because
that's the point. Yeah.
We hopped on this Zoom, and I just the past few days, I know that Jill's been like, I don't feel right. My body feels anxious, even though I'm not anxious. Like it's almost debilitating for work, which is highly unusual for her. And we hopped on and I'm like, hey, how you doing? Yeah, hanging in there, you living? And she's like, okay, so I didn't think, like my therapist brought this up, but I didn't think to associate it to that thing that happened last week, that psychological thing that happened last week, because I'm looking for physical things because that's the lens we look through, right? And as we were talking about this, I was like, can we just start recording and do an unhinged episode chatting? Because I feel like this stuff is very valuable for people to hear. A lot of times there are physical things we can do, right? There are, if somebody is saying they're not sleeping well at night, and their body feels stressed, and then I look at their food log and they're drinking 2 Red Bulls in the morning and alcohol at night, I can pretty quickly say, let's remove those 2 things and just see how your body levels out, right? In this case, it's like, okay, none of those things are happening, right? Behaviorally, you're on. She hasn't even been exercising because she doesn't want to send more like stressed out signals to her body. She's been trying to focus on rest and recovery. What's going on here, right? So I think that Jill and I have been shifting in our career and in our like the legacy that we want to create, being more of like how can the industry as a whole help the whole person, help actually heal people, help prevent chronic illness and disease, versus us just looking at it as, we're fitness coaches, fitness and macros, right? Like that's one very, very small.
Or us as individuals nationwide having to put the puzzle pieces together ourselves, right. Or assuming that we are going to a provider and they're making the appropriate referrals, because
they may or they may not be, because all they know is the little world that they live in, right? So they might be great at that little world, but how much are they missing out on if they're not zooming out to the whole person? So like a big shift we are trying to make in our own service to our clients, but also like we have another business that we're launching in 2026. And like, this is the whole concept of the business is giving people access so that you don't have to put the puzzle pieces together for whole person care. And I just think that this is a really great example of that. We're talking to somebody right now who has a very good health background from a physical health standpoint. Okay, wow, how cool when she pulls in a mental health person to say, duh, this mental health thing ties to your physical response. Let's work on that. So I just think like theme wise, it's really, really cool to look at, and both are important. We can't cherry pick. And a lot of times we want to cherry pick to avoid the thing we are putting off addressing, right? So like for you in this case, not working is not an option for you, right? Slowing down is not an option because that's your coping is I have control over this thing. So I'm going to just focus on this thing and then it distracts me from the pain or from the grief or whatever. For me, it's like, well, it's okay. I just right now in this season of life, I'll not get as much sleep because I have to get this thing done. And then I only have so much time at night and I deserve that time for me time. And it's like at the end of the day, if you're cherry picking, there's still going to be a gap in your health. And you have to be honest with yourself about what you are willing and are not willing to change. And then you also have to accept some of the consequences that might come with not being willing to change some of those things, right? I can take supplements as a remedy all day for my high cortisol, but it's not going to fix the problem if I don't stop looking at my computer after my kids go to bed at night. So anyway, that was kind of like a little rant, but we both are very, very passionate about this topic of really helping with preventive health.
And also where in healthcare do you hear anything about vagus nerve stimulation or nervous system regulation? Like a lot of the stuff people are learning from social media, like that's one of the blessings of it, but like that is not the culture I feel like that we live in. And I think it's one of the largest gaps in our health and one of our biggest negatives in our health, and why people I think struggle so much is because we don't slow down, and not just everyone's working hard, but also like the stimulation. We have screens, everything at our fingertips that is instant on demand. So if we're sitting in the doctor's office, this is like a corny explanation, but back in the day, air quotes, you would sit and
you're just
stare
sitting
at the wall, talk to somebody next to you. Now, what are you doing? You immediately, as soon as you're not stimulated or nobody's talking to you, you're opening your phone and checking your notifications and scrolling and what's going on.
And you think you're not stressed, but you're now looking at all the rest of the world's problems because you're on the internet. But also, it's just a physical stressor. Like your eye is constantly focusing on something new and needing the dopamine hit of
you're stimulated.
Constant stimulation. And I think some of the gap you're talking about, like, well, nobody talks about this. I think some of it is a lack of understanding the mechanisms. Like in psychology and in like neuroscience, there's a huge gap in the understanding of consciousness, right? We don't understand, just because we don't understand why something works doesn't mean it doesn't work, is where I come from, of like, okay, there's all these studies that show that breath work and meditation physically improve health markers. Just because we don't understand the why, or just because, okay, maybe the vagus nerve plays a little part, but that's probably not the only mechanism at play. Just because we can't explain the why, we often dismiss it as woo-woo, right? But there's clear research that it helps our cognitive function. It brings down anxiety. It reduces panic attacks. It does all these things that are positive. So just because, again, we don't understand the why doesn't mean it is not effective. So I think we need to look at the lens of like what actually works too, not just what is funded by research, looking at one little isolated event, because the whole body is not an isolated factor. The whole body works together in coherence with itself.
It was interesting too for my therapist, like she was talking about meditation. And when you hear meditation, there's people like have good intentions, but they generally don't do it or don't see it through, or they don't know what to do. And she said, I think so often that these books and these things make you feel like you should just be able to sit down and shut off for 60 minutes. And it's like, most people
call it a practice for a reason.
That's a big leap though, for a lot of people who do.
You have to practice
24/7. So she's like, it might be 60 seconds of listening to a meditation while you walk, like, and having something else going on. Like you kind of have to wean yourself to it, but there's also not a lot of information on that, or how to do it, or how to implement this practice in baby steps in a way that logically makes sense for your brain, and what to look for to know this is working. Obviously, you're not always going to have these tangibles. Like,
well, and you try it
too, but
you try it once or twice, and you listen to a guided meditation that is walking you through your breath work, and you are thinking about your grocery list and your kids getting off the bus and this, and you think, oh, that doesn't work for me. I can't just turn off my brain, right? Versus being like, oh no, it's like just the expectation setting could help so much to realize like, oh, no. It's not easy. That's the point, is to learn how to turn off your brain and actually be still. Sorry, I keep burping because I'm having my carbonated drink.
She said those thoughts are going to come through though. And what you have to do is notice them, acknowledge them, and then let them go on. Not I perfect say like bring yourself back, but they're going to come up until you learn how to just quiet. And that takes, she's like, that takes years, truly.
I really like, so we had another coach, Dana, and I like this example she used to give her clients. Play is also another really great way to turn off your brain and turn on your parasympathetic nervous system. So we're talking about breath work, right? Breath work is really good for that. If you are like, yeah, I'm not ready for that. That feels like I have to sit in my feelings too much. Play is another way to turn that on, right? We were just talking about this before we started recording, but like you don't see somebody who's stressed out walking down the street humming or skipping, right? Dana used to give this example of like her version of this parasympathetic self-care input is going to a park and swinging on the swings. Her kids are grown. She's not there with little kids, but she said, if I'm on a swing, I'm literally just like looking at the sky and looking at the birds and smiling, but I'm not thinking about other things because I'm in this action. Play is like that. So go skip outside, as silly as that sounds, right? Go do some cartwheels, swing on a swing, sit and stare at the leaves while they fall down and just try to observe the different features of them, their colors, their shape. Look, notice and observe the things around you. That is also what we're talking about here. So when we say meditation, we're not saying like, this is not some religious practice of having to connect with the universe. And it's literally training yourself to let go of the overstimulation and just being present in the moment that you are in. It's super stinking healthy for brain health and for physical health.
And I will say, something I struggle with immensely is like fully turning my brain off in even those scenarios. Like that's why I like to ski and do all of these like extreme things, because I'm in nature and I'm outside and I'm having fun, but I'm also still
your time to turn. Oh, true. I guess it's a distraction still because you're skiing.
It's still a little bit of a distraction.
Yeah.
Where
That's interesting.
I just need a year of like quiet.
So one of our friends who's a yoga teacher actually told me that when I was like, well, yeah, sometimes it helps me to fall asleep. Like I struggle with falling asleep because I have like ruminating thoughts or I'm like trying to solve tomorrow's problems. My brain is just nonstop. And listening to some guided meditation, and it's like I forget what type of meditation this is called, but it's really just like learning to contract and release your muscles so that physically your body can say, okay, it's bedtime now. She was the first one to actually challenge me on that and say, okay, well, just so you know, that's like one level of meditation, right? After you get past that level, maybe you practice 1 minute of not listening to anything and see if you can get to that calm place without actually because you're constantly needing that stimulation. That's why you're enjoying this type, because you're like, okay, tell me what to do. I'm listening to a story. And it's like, do less, do less. So again, that's a great stepping stone, but I guess that's similar to what you're saying and what I'm saying. Skipping down the street or doing cartwheels. Okay, I'm still giving myself another challenge, but man, it's so much less stimulating to ski or do cartwheels than it is to stare at a computer or your phone all day. So find some sort of stepping stone towards that for your deep whole body health.
Yeah. I was listening to like binaural beats the other day when I was on my walk, and I told my therapist I was like so all over the place in my head that I literally was like tree, like blue sky, like could feel the heat on my back. Like I left my phone at home and I had to do that to tell myself like, you are here. Like this
calm down. Yeah.
So much.
What is the thing? Jade told me about this. So my sister-in-law is in like the occupational therapy field, and she works a lot with people who have had like neurological brain injuries and stuff. And there's something that they do to bring people back to the present where you have to like point out 5 things that are like a certain color in the room or a certain shape in the room. And I know I'm like messing up what this exercise is.
No, it's a grounding technique. So 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 you can smell, 1 you can taste. Yes.
So you're working through every single sense and you have to find it. And there's something about that exercise that brings you to the present moment, because you can't physically focus on a couple things at the same time without being present. It's like tapping your head and rubbing your belly at the same time. It's really hard to also think about whatever stressor you were worrying about like a conflict with a coworker yesterday or something, right? It's hard to do those things at the same time.
We talk about like anchoring habits, right? So like if you're going to do this thing and you're trying to develop this new habit, like Atomic Habits talks about this, where you're like anchoring it, right?
Yep.
One of the things she said, where you can kind of practice like mindfulness and being present. She's like, you're going to eat regardless, but she's like, a peach is the best example because a peach has so many different like textures and things going on with like the fuzziness and the juiciness and the
Try to
skin.
focus on the actual
She was
features.
like, be present and like talk yourself through like the textures that you're eating. What are you experiencing? What do you taste? Where do you feel it? Like, do you feel it in the back of your jaw? She's like, you're going to eat anyway, and you should be present for the sake of your digestion and stuff anyway.
That's what I was going to say. It's like, okay, she's giving you this again from a therapy angle. Now let's talk nutrition coach angle. That's advice we would give somebody who has GI dysfunction. Yeah, who has GI dysfunction or who has psychological like eating behaviors that they want to change, like emotional eating or mindless eating or whatever. Being mindful about your food physically helps you too, not just psychologically. That is a really great connection.
Like in what we're doing,
things overlap.
We're doing as a business, like what are those overlaps for a person? That's what they need to focus on, because if these are the problems and these top 5 things providers are recommending are like this, and it's like, oh shit, all of these overlap for totally different reasons. Like you kind of know, I mean, obviously we know the big rocks to move for our health, but it's interesting to see that overlap.
Well, again, we're talking now, I don't want to say we're talking cherries on top, but a lot of people are just filling their body with trash and poison and like not moving their bodies. Like there are basics that need to be met first, but there are basics that most people would benefit from first. But then on top of that, this stuff is not insignificant. And I think a lot of times if we bring it up, it's like, yeah, I'll do that tomorrow. Cause that's not really like right now I want to focus on weight loss. And it's like, okay, but like, we're not looking at how the whole system actually works together.
Well, and it's hard to think about that too, because that's generally the sole motivator for people to get healthy, which is fine. But it's like, how do we shift that narrative? Like, that's what I wish I could shake people and be like,
well, yeah, but think about you and I, how we got to this place of caring
it's the
about
same thing, right? Like, but I wish
cared about
myself then.
Yeah, like we care about pursuing whole person health because now we realize what it feels like. And both of us started the health journey because of physique goals and superficial ego-driven stuff, right? And then as you continue, and this is just like our clients' journeys where, whoa, a year in, I can't believe how much this is improving my relationship. I am realizing I can do hard things because I'm lifting heavier in the gym. Like they're realizing how it translates to all this other stuff. I had a woman yesterday. Oh my gosh, this was my favorite win of the week. She's a grandmother and she was visiting grandkids and the other grandmother was there. And after they were playing all day, the other grandmother's like, I can't believe you're like on the floor with them and stuff. Don't your knees hurt? Aren't you tired? And she was like, no, I'm good. But it's because she's training for life, right? Like that's so cool to be able to see that. And like Jill said, we're never judging somebody if the start of it is physique driven. That's how both of us started, right? In terms of our habits. But if we could, once you get to the place of realizing that health is the primary journey, and I need to keep pursuing health. It's not a destination to get fit and then stop, right? If I can keep pursuing health, physique comes as a side effect. It lives like that. Then you can live in this body you feel comfortable with while feeling good because you're pursuing the thing. Now, the side effect takes longer. That physique is going to take longer if we're just focusing on health as the core. But man, you focus on health as the core and you feel better and your health markers are better and physique will change with time.
Well, and the other thing too, if you think about, I wish, and I do think there are gaps in education and the value of the things that we teach clients initially, whether it's weight loss driven or not. But, I'll talk to women who are saying, well, I just want to be healthy. And I'm like, well, what's really in your head day to day? Because that's ultimately what's driving this, right? Like you say you want to be healthy, but you're not waking up in the morning like, gosh, I really just want to be healthier, right? You're thinking, I am bloated all the time and I don't want to feel bloated. You're thinking, these pants fit too tight, or I have a line in my belly at the end of the day when I'm wearing these pants and I don't like that feeling, or I have to dress up and I don't like the way my clothes fit me, or gosh, I wake up every morning exhausted, right? But we're thinking about that like physical presentation ultimately, but we're not thinking about, I want to be healthy ultimately, right? Like that is the root. Like obviously we know logically getting healthier is going to solve that problem, but we're thinking about those other things, which is okay, right? Ultimately, that's the point of you're experiencing things you don't want to and you want to change it. Like that's what's going to drive.
We're actually, our podcast episode next week is going to be about We already have notes for it, but it's about like not relying on motivation and instead relying on systems. And I feel like this is actually a really good note to that. Sometimes something that personally helps me is writing down that deeper why. Because in the moment, we're just going through the motions and we're doing these things that are not even conscious because we've been doing them for so long, right? I grab the energy drink because I'm like, well, that's what you do in the mornings, and it gives you this little temporary high, right? What I've been writing down is like I've gotten a Dutch test. I know my cortisol is high. I know my dopamine is low. I know that there are these metabolic trickle downs because of me creating stress on my body. The reason I got the Dutch test is because I don't want to get an estrogen dominant breast cancer like my mom had. My test shows, hey, your body has a good amount of estrogen. You're not overloaded, but it's really not disposing of it like it should because there's this buildup because you're stressed all the time. Me writing this down helped me. And again, now I'm saying this, so I'm going to have to really do it now that I'm saying it on the podcast. But like, for a few days in a row, at least for almost a week, I didn't have any caffeine at all, like even tea, which I know that sounds like, okay, she didn't have any green tea. Like this is a big deal for me to not have any caffeine. But Jill's like, oh my gosh, don't you miss it? Like I was at this softball tournament and everybody brings their like box of coffee in the morning. And I'm like, no, I don't even miss it because this goal for me right now is so deep. It is about like, I want next time I do my physical markers, I want to see that my blood insulin has gone down. Because right now my body is in this stressed out place and it's producing more and more insulin to try to keep that blood glucose down, right? I want to actually heal my health. Sometimes you could put a note on the back of your phone screen, or you could write down your goal every single morning so it's top of mind, because then as you go throughout your day, you're going to be more likely to work towards those habits because it's top of mind. Again, it's not about me like giving myself some rah-rah pep talk, but if it's top of mind, you're going to be more likely to act on it. So if you're like, yeah, but I do just want to feel better in my body. Okay, why? And I know Jill has talked about this a lot. You need to ask why 5 times, 10 times. Why do you want to feel better in your body? Oh, so that I can wear a bathing suit. Okay, well, why do you want to be able to wear a certain type of bathing suit? Well, and then you get down to it and you're like, oh my gosh, they feel insecure in their relationship with their husband because they think that other person is judging their body. Like you end up getting to this deep thing where you're like, I just want to feel supported in my marriage. Like, and it ends up being this deeper thing. Try to really challenge yourself. And again, if you're working with a coach, like you don't need to tell me what that thing is if it's a private thing for you. I'm not your therapist, right? However, dig deep and be honest with yourself about what is that underlying thing that's really, really important, because if you can tie it to that, you're more likely to value the inputs that are required to get that outcome that you're talking about versus if it's a fleeting momentary thing, right? If I say, oh, I'm just not doing caffeine this week,
superficial drive.
It's like, okay, well, yeah, that's not really, okay, cool. That's one day. Who cares? Like, that's fine. I'll catch up on sleep tomorrow. But if I zoom out at my whole life and say, I want to be here for a long time for my kids and I don't want to get cancer and it runs in my family and this and that, like those things now become that much more important for me to actually stick to the thing I said I was going to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, that's a good segue into next week's habit and versus systems type of episode. So, okay. I mean, I feel like that was a good breakdown on the most random shit ever, but
Sure.
I also made a supplement. Yeah, I was going to say,
that's what I was going to say. We should keep going.
And every time I post supplements, everyone always has a million questions and wants to know dosing and timing and all the things. The truth is, like, my supplement routine is not consistent. If you ask me again in 6 months, I'm probably taking a slightly different variation of that, for good reason too. Like I rotate through different things. I rotate through gut support supplements for a certain reason. So they're never going to be consistent, but I've been talking a lot about bile support, and that is like a hot topic on my stories right now because I just wholeheartedly believe that it's neglected in terms of like bile flow. And I talk about liver all the time when it comes to gut health, because your body's got to get this stuff out effectively. And then I talk about specifically with bile support. Jess and I were talking about this earlier, that if you've had your gallbladder removed, taking bile support is going to, do a couple things, but it's ultimately also going to help you digest fats more effectively, especially if you've had your gallbladder taken out, which I feel like weirdly is like I don't know. I feel like I'm seeing it more frequently these days. I don't know if that's coincidence in who I'm talking to, but talking to women who had like gallbladder attacks and it's just instant, like take it out. And I'm like, no, I wish I talked to you like 3 months ago because we could have done a couple of different things. But that is one of the biggest ones that I'm getting questions about. And I mean, I think everyone can benefit from. I talk about magnesium, most of the population being deficient in that. Never a bad thing to take a good quality omega-3 because omega-3 is anti-inflammatory. And part of the problems when we talk about seed oils and whatever, which a while ago, Jess and I did a whole episode on that, but those things have omega-6, which is inflammatory. And it's not bad to have some of those, but we just have to balance them with our anti-inflammatory foods and things like that. And omega-3 can be a good thing for anybody to take. There's no harm in it. Vitamin D, I find a lot of people are low, not necessarily, so I wouldn't run and take it, but it's interesting. We have a lot of clients from Alaska and New York, Buffalo specifically. And every time I see labs from somebody who lives in those two places, their vitamin D is like 20, like it's super low, which obviously logically I know why, right? Like based on the weather and the seasons and things like that, generally is what we can attribute it to. But yeah, so that's another one. But generally, Jess and I are never going to just say everyone should take this thing because it really is so individual to each person.
Creatine,
Jess,
you didn't say creatine yet. You said
I did
omega-3s.
I can't take creatine, but the whole
You
world
better add creatine to that list. Creatine monohydrate, I will add to the list. I used to always do 5 grams, not milligrams, grams a day. And that's kind of like the standard recommended. I've now been taking like 10 to 15 grams. My digestion,
I'm so jealous.
My system handles it fine. Sometimes if it causes digestion issues, just dial back to that 2 to 5-ish a day. Most people are not getting enough in regular food as is, but on top of that now, there's all these studies on cognitive health. So I shared about this a while ago, but my grandfather had Parkinson's and like he saw one of the best Parkinson's specialists at Hopkins and they had him dosing up on creatine like 10 years ago for memory. So cognitive function, also now there's all these studies about cognitive function being improved when you're sleep deprived. So for all the young moms out there who aren't sleeping, check it out, take some creatine monohydrate. So again, this traditionally was one that is like, it helps our cellular function and it makes our cells like retain water and then be able to produce more ATP. So energy. So lifters would take it because they can crank out 1 extra rep or 5 extra pounds on that lift, right? So it was traditionally known as like a bodybuilder muscle type thing. It's helpful for every organ and every cell in our body. So again, that's one that it's regular for me.
Yeah. No, I mean, I love creatine. I think everyone should take it 100%. And you mentioned, tell me your
I'm on so much stuff right now. Okay. So also I'm about to take my sock off and show you guys if we ever put these on YouTube because it's like wild. I had a plantar wart that was like the most foul thing. I was living with this thing for like 25 years probably. Like I've had it as long as I can remember. Definitely like probably after high school. Maybe like in college I started getting this wart. I was like hobbling. I hobble around sometimes because it's that painful where I'm like, this is definitely impacting my knees and like my lifts because I end up compensating on the way that I walk because it's on the ball of my one foot. And we have a friend who she actually lives in Alaska, random, but she's a foot surgeon. And we went and we stayed at her house. And I was like, dude, you got to look at this wart that I have. And she was like, well, how big is it? Like, can I give you some medicine to fix it? And I was like, yeah, it's not that big. And she was like, dude, that thing is big. Put socks on in my house. I don't want you walking around barefoot. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's not that bad. Anyway, when I visited her, I was pregnant. So the medication that she would have recommended, she didn't do because she was like, while you're pregnant, we don't want to put like something toxic in your body. So I came back to Delaware. I saw like a foot surgeon here. He literally cut it out. It was like the size of a dime and it looked like a bullet hole in my foot. He cut it like deep tissue where my whole foot had to heal. This bitch came back bigger. It came back. And that was like probably a year and a half ago that I got it removed and it came back and I've been hobbling around or whatever. It is gone, people. It healed itself within the last 6 months. After 20 years, it healed itself. And I have not been doing anything. Like again, for years and years on and off, I was doing like the acid that you're supposed to rub on it, duct tape, like all the things to supposedly starve it from oxygen. I bought some like natural herbal remedies that had like oregano oil in it. I literally tried everything. The surgeon, after he cut it out and it grew back, gave me some sort of cream for it. Like I tried everything and nothing worked. I was giving up on it. And like every now and then I would use a razor blade and like cut it down in the shower. Like after I showered, if it started to get,
so much.
I know, if it started to get thick enough that it would bother me, I would literally do that. But I wasn't doing anything to treat the symptom. What I have done over this last year was the stuff I've been talking about to try to heal my blood work and my numbers and my inflammation markers, which is so cool. And again, I'm not like claiming causation from a specific supplement, but I've done a lot in terms of liver detox and gut healing. And I think what has happened here is my body is like, oh, yay, we have the immune system capacity to now fight this thing. And then it just is gone. It healed itself. So unbelievable. Again, like I haven't even really been paying attention to it. And the other, like maybe last week I was like, my foot hasn't been hurting in a while. And I looked at it and I was like, holy crap. There's literally like where it was calloused is actually coming off. It's not even calloused anymore in some area. Like there's almost nothing left and it looks like a normal foot like skin. It is wild. So, okay, here's all the things that I've done. And I've never fasted or extreme dieted during any of this stuff, I'd like to say.
Also, this is not a what I did for my ward. This is just a what she's done in general.
This is a what I've done in general, but I am pointing out the correlation because I think my immune system is better and my liver is better and it's processing things and getting rid of infections in my body, right? Like that's a virus. And it's just been living there and I didn't have the resources to clear it clearly, right? So anyway, in general, here's all the things. I had talked about a gut protocol that I did. I did get a gut test. I saw that I was short on short chain fatty acids. So I have been taking butyrate for that specifically. And that is something my body's specifically short on, but I don't think it would harm anybody to take it for a couple months. So I've been taking butyrate. I have been taking L-glutamine, which is an amino acid that helps with like your gut lining healing. In the morning, and this is more so for like my thyroid, which is a trickle down of other stuff. I've been having 2 Brazil nuts every morning before I have my vitamins. And that's just a like hefty dose of selenium. I take my omega-3s every day, DHA, EPA combo. Jill had already touched on that. We think everybody should take an omega-3 because we generally don't get enough. I switched from Zyrtec. So I always had horrible seasonal allergies. And they still flare up sometimes a little bit more than others. But for about a year and a half now, I've switched from taking Zyrtec daily to taking, it's not D-hist, but it's like an equivalent to D-hist. So it's like quercetin, vitamin C, it's all bromelain. It's all these things that naturally get your body and your cells to work better. It's not a histamine suppressant. It gets your body to just process things better. So your histamine doesn't flare up. So I think that has actually been a big change in my health was switching. And it did take me time. Like I had physical itchy skin when I withdrawed from Zyrtec, which is wild to think that you can have a withdrawal, but I was taking Zyrtec for most of my life. And I feel so much better taking this other like natural antihistamine supplement. And again, it's not a histamine suppressant. It's actually vitamins and stuff that get your body doing the right thing. I am taking, and then for general cellular health, here's things I'm taking. So, anytime I feel like sickness or cold coming on, I have like liposomal glutathione. It's like an antioxidant that just can help support your body if it's stressed, like detox type supplement. I still will do that, or I'll give it to my kids if they're starting to get sick. However, I started taking, NAC instead, which is a precursor to glutathione. So I've been taking that so that my body naturally makes more glutathione. And then I've also been taking, and I think we've talked about this in prior episodes, but urolithin A, which is like, it clears out old mitochondria and helps for like energy and muscle function. I've been taking that for probably like 2 years now. And And then recently, and I don't think this has anything to do with that because this is a more recent add into my stack here. I've been taking NR. So let me sound it out because I'll say it wrong. Nicotinamide riboside. The brand I take is like True, what is it called? True Niagen or something. It's an NAD precursor. So like you could do NAD injections and it's really great for like cellular health and anti-aging and stuff. But I've been taking NR, which gets your body to produce more NAD on its own because your body reduces in NAD as you age. And then on top of that, we already talked about like my stress response and my like poor sleep and my cortisol. I know my cortisol is high. So before I say this, I've had it tested. I've done a Dutch test and I know that my trend is like it spikes really high and then it comes back up before bedtime when it's supposed to be going down. So I have in the afternoons or evenings been taking ashwagandha, which helps as like a adaptogen to bring down that, like to regulate your cortisol. And then sometimes when I'm like, okay, I need to be knocked out right now. Like my cortisol is really like, I feel wired at night and I can't fall asleep. I'm going to butcher this. On our notes, I actually wrote phosphocera, blah, blah, blah.
Phosphatidylcholine, I think is what it is.
Phosphatidylserine. That's what I take. Yeah. And that has been like major in sleep support. So again, this is not like, oh, this thing fixed my body. It's like I'm trying to, one, clear my liver out from old stuff through a couple of these different things. Two, support my gut lining so that I actually absorb the nutrients that I am eating every single day and create a healthier gut microbiome for all of my processes. And so that less like toxic stuff slips through the cracks, so to speak. And then three, I'm taking this other stuff that like helps at a cellular and mitochondrial level. Now I put a note in here. Again, this is me on Hinge because me and Jill just text screenshots back and forth. I saw the dumbest ad the other day about urolithin A, because now everybody is using the opportunity to talk about GLPs to sell their supplements. So I saw the dumbest ad for Mitopure, which Mitopure is a great supplement. It's an expensive one, but it's like the tried and true tested urolithin A. Currently, I take like a liposomal urolithin. I don't take that particular brand, but Mitopure is a good supplement. It's great for cellular health. But their ad was like, if you take this supplement and you're on a GLP-1, you won't lose you will gain muscle mass even if you don't exercise. That is just a false claim. It's not true. You do need to exercise. You will lose muscle mass over the course of your lifespan, even if you do eat enough protein and exercise. So to say like, take this supplement and you'll be able to build muscle even without exercise was just like, to me, pissed me off because it was very fraudulent. But again, at the end of the day, I know that it's an effective supplement for cellular health. They're just overselling the benefits of it because they did a study. And again, I looked into the study, like, why would they make this claim? They did a study that there wasn't as much muscle loss, or in some cases, there was no muscle loss, even in a deficit. But those people were exercising. So the fact that they said without exercise really like irked me. But again, I say this to say, understand the why or work with somebody who knows the why behind the guidance they're giving, because at the end of the day, I still like that supplement, but somebody out there is being sold on it because they think, yay, I don't have to exercise now and I'm going to have great benefits while I'm losing weight on my GLP-1. And it's like, that's not the benefit of this. Like, that's not the causation here when we're talking about this particular thing. So anyway, be cautious of ads. There's so many dumb ads I see on the internet for all different types of supplements, and know the why, know the actual effective dose. Don't fall for supplements that say proprietary blend or like matrix or whatever, because they don't tell you how much of each ingredient is in there. Like those are all kind of like red flags. If something says it's a cure-all and it doesn't, like, it defies logic to say you can gain muscle just by taking this supplement without exercise. Like, don't believe it.
Great segue into weighted vests.
Oh yeah. Okay. More things that piss me off on the internet this week. Let's keep going. There's nothing wrong with weighted vests. If that is fun for you, go walk in nature. walk in nature with your weighted vest. I think it's great. If you want to ruck, my husband carries around our kids on his shoulders while we go for walks to practice for his elk hunt. Like, go ahead, walk with weight on you. Why not? It's an extra stimulus. You'll burn a little more calories than you would without the vest. However, it's like the new Pilates, where everybody's like, this is how I got fit from going on walks with my weighted vest. That's just because you're moving more than you were moving before. Again, correlation does not mean causation. The most effective way to train to change your physique is going to be resistance training with progressive overload. And then you should walk, you should move your body, you should do some sort of mobility or Pilates and stuff for mobility, not for physique. If movement is fun for you, do it because it's fun for you. But we want to educate on the why, because if everybody thinks like, oh, I got to get myself a weighted vest because that's how all these people are getting fit, those people are just lying to you. If they look like they're training in the gym, they're not just walking with a weighted vest to get that outcome.
100%. The ads and you're not on TikTok like I am, but TikTok is so frustrating with these weighted vests because people, like you said, just make it seem like it's the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
And yes, there is some degree of increased resistance for somebody that truly has done nothing and has been extremely sedentary, but just go for a walk. Like the weighted vest, like, I don't know mentally what people think they're getting out of it, or if you think you're like burning more calories.
They're excited because they're burning more calories, and it's like, okay, but like also we aren't telling you to train for calories burn, because you can easily eat more calories than you can burn. We want to train your metabolism to burn calories all the time. Sure, any calories you're burning moving around is good throughout the day, but that's not going to make like the big bang in terms of physique change.
Absolutely.
I saw a dumb ad too about oh gosh. Okay, go back, and then there was another one that just popped in my head while we were talking about weighted vests that was so ridiculous that I saw this week.
I could probably think of a million ads like that are ridiculous.
Oh, it was a Pilates. Okay, it was a Pilates app. And in the ad, the girl was freaking ripped. She absolutely was a bodybuilder in the past. Like, there's no way she wasn't. And they're like, if you want to get toned like her, sign up for this app, blah, blah, blah. We're looking for women who haven't exercised in 3 years. And it's like, well, duh, the adaptation, they're specifically targeting people who are not adapted to exercise. So any exercise you do, yes, your body will adapt because it's a new stimulus. And then at some point you need to progress beyond that, because the body weight exercises ain't going to cut it, right? So they're advertising knowing they will only get results from the people who haven't been moving their bodies, which again, okay, respect that. At least they're like targeting the audience it's going to work for. But again, we're false advertising with this woman who is absolutely jacked, would put me and Jill to shame, and saying that she did it through Pilates with body weight only at home. Like, get out of here.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've done videos about Pilates and what it markets to before, and every time I do it, you better believe there's Pilates instructors in the comments telling me how dumb I am and I don't know, and how much weight.
And we love Pilates. Both of us like Pilates. I love Pilates for my core and for my shoulder, like my posture, because I'm hunched over too much. Love it for that. I'm not ever gonna be like, that's the quickest way to a physique you want. Ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just wild. But it's okay, because people just don't understand progressive overload and how adaptations on the body work. And that's all I hear when people chime in the comments. Same thing with Orange Theory or anything else, right? Oh, I lost all this weight at Orange Theory. Yeah, I'm not saying that you won't, but what were you doing prior to Orange Theory? Because if Jess and I go to Orange Theory for the next 6 months, well, I would probably be.
I would get ripped. I would get ripped because I don't burn that many calories every single day. And I have the muscle underneath I've been developing to show it off. And I eat high calories. So if I go and I add cardio in for 3 months, yeah, I get ripped up. And then when my body starts adapting to it, I get the heck out of the cardio classes. I go back to what I was doing. And then I do it a year from now again for 2 months at a time. Like, I phase it in and out very strategically, because I know that, okay, great. Now I can show off all the muscle that I built underneath.
But again, it's about adaptations and what you're doing before that and everything too. So, but Jess and I wouldn't go to Orange Theory and build muscle, but somebody who hasn't ever strength trained before would go to Orange Theory and build muscle, because They're not
Yes,
used to
great point.
it. That's a new stimulus, right? But yes, I would go to Orange Theory and my conditioning would improve. Maybe it would help my heart rate, which is actually at 82 right now, but maybe it would help my conditioning. God knows I could afford some cardio in my life. So that's a
Will
conversation.
you talk about the difference? Sorry, I'm going back to our original topic of your stress response and stuff this week.
Mhm.
Can you talk about the difference between the ice bath and the sauna in terms of the stimulus it puts in the body? Because I think these two things go hand in hand, where people think like, oh yeah, I've been doing stuff that's great for my longevity or my health, so I do ice bath and sauna. And it's like, well, there's a time and a place for either, because some people's bodies actually would do worse in it if they're in a chronic, like type A fight or flight type lifestyle. Can we talk about that? And I feel like that's kind of like the last thing that I'm just brain dumping here that has been
So
on my
you
mind
mean in
today.
terms of like just what the different benefits are of each one?
So we've kind of gone over benefits before, but also it's like knowing your why. I always talk about that. Like, why are you adding this thing? Is it because you heard it's good, or is it because it's actually good based on your circumstance?
Okay.
So, for example, like ice baths, people say, oh, ice baths are so great. And then for like a bodybuilder who's trying to have muscle hypertrophy, they shouldn't do ice baths post workout because that's reducing good inflammation, right? So, like, that's a scenario where maybe that's not a good move. For you right now, you usually use sauna as a method for like bringing your system back down to chill, right? For you right now, and your heart rate is 130 in the morning for no reason, sauna probably is going to put you in a more stressed out state that isn't ideal.
Yeah. So with somebody like me who rides the wave with cortisol and thyroid health, this goes for kind of across the board for thyroid health, that you definitely have to be strategic and intentional. And I cannot just go in the sauna for the length of time that my husband does and the frequency that he does. I can't tolerate it as well. It's just also not fun for me. I'm hot. It's icky for too long. I just don't tolerate the heat well. But specifically where I'm at now, in terms of what I shared at the beginning of the episode, for one, the like when we take clients through a flush, we tell them to do yoga, lots of parasympathetic activity. But hot yoga is a no, because that heat on top of the activity is a stressor, right? And we're trying to pull that out temporarily, right? There's nothing bad with it inherently. There's just certain scenarios where it's not good.
And then when we get your body back to level, then you can add that back in. And if your body is adapting appropriately, it should adapt in a desirable way to that said stressor, right? Our body should adapt well. It shouldn't keep getting more and more inflamed from the stressor. That's when we're saying, let's pull it back.
Yeah. So for where I'm at specifically though, when it comes to vagus nerve, the sauna isn't really doing that, whereas the cold is. Actually, and you've heard probably different things. Like they talk about, oh, don't cold plunge during certain points of your cycle. And now they're saying, oh, women shouldn't cold plunge at all. Whatever, right? There's always going to be some conflicting things. Cold plunge is short and temporary. And when you first cold plunge, you are actually triggering your fight or flight, your sympathetic, right? You're going to see a spike in your heart rate. You're obviously like your breathing's accelerating, right? All of those things. So it's because it's a big shock. But the rebound effect is your vagus nerve activating, shifting you back into parasympathetic. So that's why people feel like calm, more focused, more all of those things after a cold plunge. When I was doing it in the mornings, I hated it in the moment, obviously, but I loved so much like what it did for me mentally after the fact. But you aren't getting that same vagus nerve like benefit from the sauna as you are from this big instant cold plunge feeling that you're getting. Did I explain that?
Is it the amount of the stressor? Because I feel like, so I don't really enjoy the sauna, but the reason I do it, my gym has it. And after a workout, if I work out in the morning and I come home for a work day, I'm amped. I am like at a level 10. Doing the sauna for even just 10 minutes after my workout brings me back to like, I can focus and my body feels calm. Does the length of time matter, or is it because my body isn't in a state where it's freaking out? So it knows how to adapt and come back down.
But also out of the sauna, it tends to be a much more gradual shift back into this parasympathetic, right? As you're in the sauna, you could get out after a couple minutes and you haven't really fully set into this like sympathetic fight or flight, right? Like you might just be in there. It might not be hot enough. It might not be all of these things.
Oh, it's gradual. Whereas the ice bath is like,
Ice bath is like
boom.
guaranteed. You get in, boom, you're triggered, and now you have to recover coming
And now
out.
your body's
body's doing
back
all
down.
this work to regulate your temperature and all of this stuff. Whereas the sauna, like it's just different, and it's also different in terms of like longer recovery. But I was instructed not to do sauna right now with where my heart rate is, but that cold plunge could be beneficial because I obviously need to improve some vagal tone.
And part of me asking these questions is because I'm like, I imagine both spike your heart rate temporarily, right? And then both bring it back down. There's a lady I met recently at one of these, like we have like a wellness practitioner meetup that we do here once a month. And there's a lady I met and she showed me she wears a continuous glucose monitor. And literally the only thing she changed was doing ice baths a few times a week. And her blood glucose has gone down like drastically just from the stress response piece of it, like not changing her diet at all, which is wild to me.
Really, I think it is so wildly underrated and I think it's so foundational. And again, it's so overlooked, but based on.
And is it wildly foundational because our society right now sits in comfort all day long?
That's exactly what I was going to say. The vibe
if we were in a society where we had to like fight for our food and we had these naturally occurring things that are manual labor, like we would be putting our body through that stressor and training it to adapt. And we don't give ourselves those difficult environments. So it's like giving yourself a fake like adversity to overcome so that you can adapt to adversity. Kind of wild.
Yeah. Interesting for sure. I think cold exposure is definitely, I feel like very highly debated still today. Yeah. And there are people that are like, it's so good. It's all these things. And then for my heart specifically, biologically, what it's like cold is going to tighten everything up.
Contract.
Whereas everything's going to be opened up in the sauna. And obviously that's going to be a little bit different in terms of stability and regulation of things internally, which obviously I can't regulate a goddamn thing internally right now. So
have you read the studies about I think it's Sweden, I'm going to mess it up, some like country over in that part of Europe, where they did the sauna studies, and it like pretty much everybody over there has a sauna, but they did studies comparing longevity and illness and stuff and it was controlled based on the exposure, the temperature, and the amount of times per week. And it was really wild where like there's like kind of a specific protocol where the people who did the sauna more frequently and for more minutes per week, overall better health outcomes. And it was cool because it's like
there's massive health benefits,
but it was like very dose dependent. And the more that they did it, absolutely better health outcomes, hands down, which is, again, I think like, oh, well, that's just like a little rock to turn over. Again, who knows? This whole country is probably eating better than our whole country is eating, right? But they're not looking at that factor. They're looking at this one factor, and it was tied to all these positive health outcomes, which was pretty cool.
Now, I actually just read a study about this. I don't remember if it's the same one, but same thing of like all of the like life expectancy was increased with more frequent
sauna exposure.
Yeah.
So cool.
Fascinating.
I'm jumping around in true Jessie fashion. But as I'm drinking this, my third beverage, it's an electrolyte drink. And that was something I didn't think to mention when I went over my whole supplement stack. I've been taking electrolytes and like a methylated B12 vitamin also. Now the B12 is specific for what I saw on my labs and my Dutch, but electrolytes and methylated B12 kind of go hand in hand in terms of like our body utilizing minerals and stuff too much when we're in a chronic state of stress. So I used to be somebody who was kind of like, well, I don't run marathons. I don't need electrolytes, right? But I have noticed a major difference in my energy levels throughout the day if I have an electrolyte packet in my water like earlier in the morning. And that was kind of what I was using last week as a placebo instead of a caffeine drink. And I felt like it was really tied to the day-to-day energy, but also to my gut motility. And being more regular when I started adding that in. And again, I'm like, okay, well, it's overpriced salt, essentially. We actually have we used to live in St. John, and there's like a salt pond, and we have sea salt that we collected from there naturally that like dries up after whenever there's a drought.
I forgot about that.
I still have it from 3 years ago. Like we got like rocks of salt, and I have it in I crush it up. So a lot of times I'll just crush actual sea salt into my water. But now there's like a million different electrolyte packets that you could just buy if you want to spend the money on it. What is the one I've been instant hydration I like. I bought a bunch of different flavors of it whenever it was on sale on Memorial Day. Element, like there's a million different ones that you can take. But if you're somebody who happens to be like highly stressed all the time and you're in this type A type category that we're talking about, might be worth playing around with. Now, if you're somebody who eats fast food all the time and gets tons of sodium in your foods because you eat a lot of processed stuff, you probably don't need it, right? But if you're somebody who eats mostly whole foods and doesn't get a ton of added sodium, then it might be helpful.
Yeah. No, I mean, I take them drink them, take them. I'm a Element sparkling junkie, probably a little bit, but I consume them every day, but I just didn't realize I worked in cardiology for so long that salt had this bad reputation. And I didn't realize how much sodium we actually need in our bodies. And I think even what you might research now, I think is lower than really what we truly need. So to, like you said, to your point, when you're generally eating a more whole foods diet, cooking more at home, processed foods have plenty of salt. Like if you eat out a lot and eat lots of processed foods, you probably don't need electrolytes. Now, electrolytes isn't just sodium. Like get your potassium, get your magnesium.
Magnesium, yeah.
Salt, but taking an element probably not going to be helpful. So that's the point of having those electrolytes in on top of replenishing hydration, athletes, things like that. I'm in a deficit right now. So for me, I'm eating more whole foods. My sodium intake is way lower than normal because I'm not eating out as much because I'm in a deficit. So I'm just, being more mindful. And my calorie intake is lower because I'm in a deficit. So my sodium intake is drastically reduced from normal. So I'm having 1 to 2 elements a day right now on top of I'm sick.
But you're drinking tons of water too. So we're not just saying take a bunch of electrolytes and not water. It's all about the balance. Yes. And that's why people, like if a doctor tells somebody, oh, you have high blood pressure, avoid sodium. That's a very temporary blood pressure fix. That's because if you eat more sodium, water rushes into our cells, right? To balance out the sodium. When water rushes in, it increases blood pressure. That's a super temporary fix. So like I had a client who has high blood pressure and his doctor said that like, oh, cut back on sodium. And I'm like, no, buddy. Like we need to cut back on processed foods and add some fruits and vegetables and all this stuff because then blood pressure won't be an issue. You won't have to worry about your sodium for some temporary blood pressure concern. It's like, let's actually fix the thing causing the high blood pressure. The sodium is like a temporary right now thing. I don't care if somebody has a lot, again, as long as they're healthy. If I have tons of sodium one day, I might feel a little bloated. I might see the scale go up the next day, but health-wise, I'm not worse off tomorrow. It's just going to drop right back down when I go back to my normal sodium levels.
Yeah, absolutely. What else?
I think that's all. I mean, I could just keep going for hours. So we should probably call it, and then we could always do another Unhinged tomorrow.
Well, we love your guys' feedback. So if you like episodes of us absolutely rambling about random shit like this, sometimes Jess and I, this is therapeutic where we just need to get some things out. Basically, you guys just heard a version of like a nice version of our phone calls.
Yeah, true. We should just read through our late night text sometimes.
You should never read through our late night text.
Eye-opening for people. At half the time, I'm like, this would make a great podcast episode. Can we hop on? I know it's midnight, but can we just hop on real quick?
Ask me that.
They would love this.
Yeah, at like midnight. How do you feel about late night episode? I'm like, well, I'm in bed. Love this for you.
I'm not, but our listeners would love it because this is just like the actual stuff we talk about all the time.
The most unhinged things at the most unhinged hours might be a dangerous combination. Maybe one day, who knows? But
so yeah, give us feedback. You guys are awesome. We got a lot of really, really great feedback about the episode that our client Katie was on. So if you haven't listened to the Biggest Loser episode, go listen to that. We also got really, really good feedback on last week's episode. Maybe like 3 weeks ago now, about how to do a proper reverse diet. what you should expect during a muscle building phase. So if you guys haven't listened to that one, again, we got a lot of DMs about that, which is always nice. Again, if we can get your feedback, we can keep making episodes that are more relevant to the things you guys want to learn about.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that is all for today's episode of Reality Check, and we'll see you guys next time.